So it seems to me like we had a new level of fake news and election rigging last night at the ABC town hall. NBC wasn't too much better, but all the questions so gentle. Some of the people in the audience were literally professional Democrats, like that guy, former speechwriter for the Obama administration. They try to pass him off as Joe Blow voter. To me, we haven't seen anything like this in history, but I'm not a historian. Let's bring in the historians. These guys are great. We've got Craig Shirley, presidential historian, and Doug Wead, also a presidential historian. Welcome to you both, gentlemen. Craig, starting with you.
Thanks, Craig.
To me, this stuff is unprecedented, but again, you've got the long view. Is it? Has it ever happened before?
You know, if you go back in history, the era of yellow journalism denoted newspapers who were the Rochester Republican and the Springfield Democrat, and you knew what the political persuasion was of the newspaper. Along about the 50s and 60s, we got into an era where the media tried to clean up their image a little bit. But every year we say it gets worse and worse. But this is really unprecedented. I've never seen it this bad. And quite frankly, I think that Republicans should just swear off the mainstream media because there's no convincing them. Of course, it begs the question, why do they do this? And it's because they're a part of the liberal establishment, along with big labor, with big education, with big Hollywood, with big government. They're all part of the same, corrupt enterprise. And what we offer as conservatives and Republicans is frightening them, quite frankly, because we offer freedom and privacy and dignity and independence. And we offer, anti-corruption, and all those things that we stand for are scary to the liberal establishment.
Very interesting. And Doug, what do you make of all this? And can I ask you, and I've been thinking about this week, is it becoming tedious, quite frankly, me and others complaining about the left bias of the media? I mean, it's so well established. Maybe we should just take it for granted and concentrate on doing our own thing. I don't know. Doug?
It's so arrogant. How could you ignore it? It's like the emperor has no clothes. Yes, I agree with Craig. It's happened all through history. I mean, the newspapers ganged up on Andrew Jackson's wife and literally hounded her to death. And then Jackson organized newspapers that went after William Henry Harrison, who was challenging Martin Van Buren, his anointed successor. And 3 of William Henry Harrison's sons died in the 3 consecutive years leading up to his election. But I don't think it's ever been quite this dominant censorship. This is like the Soviet Union. This is like Nazi Germany on May 10th, 1933. All the students got together and burned those books all across Germany. This is really naked, and it's bad, and I don't think it's going to get better.
You know, another downside to how kind of biased it is, it makes for often boring television. What we saw last night, I didn't find all that interesting. And I found something, though, a lot more interesting from 50-something years ago. This is a town hall featuring Richard Nixon. Now, I don't know, and I'll ask you guys in a second, maybe this was kind of rigged as well with mostly Nixon supporters, but there was an electricity in the room that I found very interesting. We have some videotape of it, and there he is. It looks like he's hosting a game show. I think this was very innovative for the time, but there are about 300 people in this room, and he took questions from the audience, and let's listen to a portion.
What would you do as president to bring law and order back to America, and what is your definition of law and order?
Well, let me start with the definition first. By law and order, I mean law and order for everybody. And let me lay one thing right on the line at the beginning. I know that it has been suggested that law and order is a code word for racism. I don't buy that at all. Let's understand that as far as law and order is concerned, that black Americans have just as great a stake in law and order as white Americans have. Fear stalks the ghettos as well as it stalks the suburbs.
Law and Order, an issue in 1968 and in 2020. Gentlemen, I know you're familiar with what Richard Nixon did. He really embraced television in the late 1960s. Was that, I don't want to say rigged, but was that staged? Was that carefully choreographed, or was there an element of surprise? Craig?
No, actually, you're right on all three counts. It was staged, it was choreographed, but it was spontaneous. Those were produced by Roger Ailes. It was called Nixon in the Round or Man in the Arena, another name for it. And they brought in men and women from everyday life, brought them off the street, and they brought them in to ask the then Vice President Nixon open questions about how he would do as President of the United States. So, yes, it was choreographed, but there was an element of spontaneity. The questions the questioners weren't prompted with questions. They were able to ask their own questions that they came up with themselves.
Yeah, no, there was an electricity in the room that I really, really liked. Isn't it wild, Doug? And I guess this is the value in knowing history, because if you know history, you know the present. Isn't that what you guys say? I mean, the issues that came up in 1968 are so similar to what we're talking about today.
Remarkable, and even the words, as you can see, the answers are the same. The only thing I would add to Craig is it is true that Nixon suffered from a very biased press, too, as he would, I'm sure, agree with me. Spiro Agnew was his vice president. He took on the press similar to the way Donald Trump is, and he got beat bad by the press and eventually was forced to resign even before Nixon resigned. And so since then, nobody's really had the guts to come out publicly and punch him in the nose the way you see Donald Trump doing.
Well, gentlemen, it's always great to talk to you. I'm really enjoying Craig Shirley's book. It's called Reagan Rising. It's really one of the best. It's such a treat, Craig. I'm so enjoying it. The detail, it's so rich. I highly, highly recommend it. And as soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to read something by you, Doug Wead, who's a great historian. And you know he's really good when it comes to books. He's got a ladder in his library. He's got so many books. You see, I love pointing that out. Can we see it one more time as we say goodbye to Craig, Shirley, and Doug? There it is. Thank you, gentlemen, very, very much, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Craig.
You bet.
I'm trying to beat the censors, and it looks like we found out a way temporarily. If you hit the subscribe button and then the bell, you'll get notice when I'm on television. So I want to hear from you, and I want you to be able to hear me. Free speech. Let's keep it as long as we can.